License to Kill is sponsored by SteriFab, Swarm Pest Control Marketing, and Pest Patrol. SteriFab delivers clean kills with a single spray, disinfect and eliminate pests instantly. Swarm Pest Control Marketing is a digital marketing partner, and Swarm Mastermind helps leaders scale with confidence. And a special thanks also to Pest Patrol for supporting our mission to make LTK agents the best in the field.
Hi, I'm Marcus, and welcome to the License to Kill podcast, where pest control professionals meet cutting-edge expertise, industry insights, and a whole lot of camaraderie. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your journey as a PMP, this podcast dives into everything that makes our industry tick. From advanced techniques and groundbreaking products to hilarious field stories and the real talk about the challenges we face in our industry. Join us as we explore the science, art, and community behind pest control, celebrating the people who work tirelessly to keep our world safe, healthy, and pest-free. As always, stay sharp, stay connected, stay legendary. Let's start the show.
And welcome to the License to Kill show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have Christopher Harkins, one of my favorite members of LTK, Vulcan Wrath. So let's take a second here. Chris, tell me a little bit about you. What's your biography? Where'd you get started?
I just have a couple of real specialties. So I guess my background. So I work for Skyhawk TrapMate currently, and I am the senior customer service and integration specialist. So basically my job is to help all of our North American customers, with customer service, if they're having issues or if they're trying to try something new or they want to learn how the system works. You got to teach them and show them, right? And one of the cool things that Skyhawk lets me do is go out into the field and do field integrations with our great customers. So I get to go out, do installs, teach classes. I'll be teaching classes next week in Arizona, so that's going to be a lot of fun for me too. Be down in Mr. Chaz's stomping grounds.
Yes.
So, and I'm out of Las Vegas. So,
okay.
And background for me in terms of pest control is
where'd you get your start at? Or when? How did that look like?
I will say I have a fairly unconventional start in pest control. I worked for a big box store as a property manager for a couple years, and I got handed over a portfolio of stores. And immediately after, in those stores, we did our own pest management, which is kind of an interesting thing. Like we checked tin cats and replace glue boards, and we would put out detects in the bait stations, and we had bait keys, and then we would report that activity to our headquarters, and they would dispatch tickets based on the information we put out.
Really?
But some of the stuff they make you do is like check under base decks and go in the attic and make sure you're not finding rodent trappings. Well, I literally was there my very first month, and I go, I think we have a small problem. It turned out to not be a small problem. It turned out being a very big problem. Like a year of having service with active rodent infestation, triple digit captures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've definitely been on a couple jobs like that.
Yeah. And like I have pictures of like a 30-inch rat, head to tail.
Was that a nutrient rat? What are you catching out there? Fucking pond swampers?
That was our big alpha rat, right? And it took us like 9 months to catch it.
Holy cow! So this is the first time you've gotten your little bit of taste of pest control. You're in there, you're doing it for this company, but you're not necessarily like a fully trained tech license or anything like that. So what was your first impression? Is this were you grossed out? Were you hooked right from the jump? How did that hit you?
Oh, so I can't say it's like my very first taste. So my dad owned an industrial maintenance company, which basically means like we worked for major food manufacturers. I grew up in food plants all over the United States and outside of the US. You've seen some
droppings or two, unfortunately.
I've seen them before, but they weren't ever my problem.
Right.
I just said, hey, I think there's a problem over there. You should call somebody. And the switch for me was really that the company that came out and was doing our service basically wasn't used to the feedback loop I was providing.
Okay.
Like when you have issues at a store or a manufacturing facility, you give them an open condition list or issues in the store. Hey, can you take care of these?
Right, right.
They're used to 7 days to 3 months for stuff to take, action. Like I was getting stuff closed in 2 days.
Okay.
And so basically after my time at that big box store, I went and worked at another big box store, and I got a phone call from the guys who were doing the pest control at the other store going like, hey, have you ever thought about working in pest control? Like you have a very unique skill set of being able to fix stuff and do exclusion and you do it well and fast. Like we didn't train you, you just kind of figured it out. And I was like, well, not really. Like I wasn't that interested because I didn't think the money was that great.
Right, right. Often a little misconception there.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, just come give us 3 months. If you hate it, you can leave. No hard feelings, but give us 3 months.
So
and it just happened to be that I
not by the original big box store, but by their preferred vendor that used to
by their preferred vendor. Yeah. And so it was just a very unique situation, and my contract was ending at the other big box store because I was closing some stores for them. And basically I was like, what's going to hurt if I do 3 months? I made a little extra money on this. If I don't make the money I think I'm going to make, then I'll be okay.
Right, right.
And very quickly I learned that like, if you can do specialty work and you can get on a ladder, you can make a ton of money.
Oh yeah, anything involving a ladder, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I grew up in an industrial maintenance company. I got on ladders from the time I was, 8 years old to all the time I lived in California. I was even a volunteer firefighter for 5 years. So I've been on roofs while they're on fire. So
no way.
I'm not really afraid.
Thank you, for doing that. Yeah, it's awesome service. You said you volunteered for your local community?
Yeah, so when I used to live in California, I was a volunteer fireman for 5 years. And so I'm not afraid of the roof. Like, I have a healthy respect for the roof, but I'm not afraid of it.
Right, right.
And working on, big hook and ladder trucks, I can work on 100+ feet and not freak out. So once you're comfortable in a setting like that, there's money to be made.
So that I'm assuming is kind of how you started to get into a lot of the bird work, right? I guess is because you're doing a lot of this stuff kind of higher up. You're comfortable with the work.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's transition a little bit. Okay, so you kind of get your toe in the door into pest control. You start to find out that you're really good at some specialties. So not a lot of people do bird work, and they don't do bird work very well. A lot of times it's just not something that comes in for most. But this is your everyday thing, right? This is your bread and butter. So tell me a little bit about that. How did that transition happen? How did you go from industrial maintenance to doing bird exclusion and bird trapping and all this bird stuff?
Yeah, so I'll just say, like, I kind of started to specialize a little bit. Well, at the beginning of my career, I was a residential tech. I'd go out, I'd see birds up in an alcove, and I'd just say, hey, would you like me to exclude that bird nest that's up there? And then I'd sell them, a cleaning and an exclusion. And I was like, oh, well, that was a cool $400 ticket that I made 25% of. And it took me like, I don't know, an hour?
Yeah, right. yeah.
There's not a lot of people that can complain when they're making $100 an hour.
Absolutely. That's right.
So at that point, I was like, well, let me go take some classes about bird work. Let me learn about some more skills that I can have, and just put some more tools in the toolbox, right? That's kind of one of my big things is like, we should always be trying to find more tools in the toolbox. And when I say tools in the toolbox, it might be a physical item. It might be learning about something. It might be technology. It might be how you execute something, right? So there's a lot of tools in the toolbox. that can add a lot of capabilities to your career.
Yes.
Some of them are free. Like there's so many classes you can take for free.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and learn.
Like the amount of credentials and certifications that you can get that can really help you out is that's probably been one of the best parts of getting involved in LTK is talking to people who have these certifications. You go, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I didn't even realize that was something, a possibility. And you really get to level up your resume, you get to level up your career in that way. So, talking about tools in the tool bag, right? Technology, you mentioned, being a big part of that. So that's kind of a twofold here because you're both a very prominent member of LTK and you're using the technology we have obviously at our disposal. You're helping people out readily. But then you work for Skyhawk, which is kind of on the bleeding edge of technology when it comes to the electronic rodent monitoring and other, rodent trapping and stuff, and the electronic trapping. So tell me a little bit about how you integrated technology into your life and how that became a big part of the tools in your tool bags. Are you a fellow nerd? Have you always been a nerd? How did that come about?
Whether it's like the RC cars or trying to figure out how a visual, sensor works or stuff like that. I've always been intrigued by technology. One of the silliest things that we did every day at the big box stores was make sure that the automatic doors opened properly.
Right.
So like, and we like literally did it in a checklist.
Yeah.
Every day. But it was like, okay, well, like this one isn't working. Let me figure it out. Like I love figuring out how stuff works. Like, I got in trouble so many times for tearing apart my RC cars and, opening televisions and stuff just to figure out how it worked.
So you've been a tinkerer.
So technology,
you tinker on things.
I'm a tinkerer.
Yeah.
Beyond that. Like I even tinker with our own products. Like at Skyhawk, I'm always trying to find the bleeding edge of what's capable and how we can make the next steps forward. But I would just say like one of the things that I've always been interested in is like, how do we make this job easier? I quickly transitioned out of being a residential tech to being a util tech, and then I was getting sent out on the rodent jobs, right? Doing the exclusions, trapping in attics, and I work in Las Vegas, Nevada, as my home. Nevada's my home state. Attics get hot. Like 140, 160 is not an unreasonable number to see in some of the summer months.
Definitely.
And so like 5 minutes in there is enough to drown you in your own sweat.
Right. Yeah, having
and,
mandatory 10-minute breaks, 15-minute recoveries, doing that cycle over and over again 1,000 times.
And not only that, like me being so safety minded from my time in the fire department, it's like, hey, every time I go in an attic, I'm putting on my full face respirator.
Oh,
so yeah. Just like let's add another tick level to the challenge bar.
Hot
right?
and can't breathe.
Let's take off your full face respirator and just like pour a quarter cup of water or sweat out of your respirator between your that. Ooh. So, yeah, definitely. Like I was like, there has to be a better way. Right. And so I talked to some trap manufacturers and a lot of them were saying like, hey, we're working on this smart trap technology. A
lot of people are working on it. Yeah. I don't know how many of them I would personally deploy, but there's a lot of people working on it.
6 and 7 years ago. So like I was lucky enough, we had a big show in Nevada every year in January. And so I would kind of be able to get updates. And I know the people at Bell really well, and I got to be one of the very early testers of Bell IQ, and I learned a lot. We both learned a lot about it. Like Nevada, everybody thinks is like, oh, it's just a hot place, but like it can get into the like sub-zero temperatures here sometimes too.
Yeah, absolutely. High
it's
highs,
a desert,
lows.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so if you really want to find the breaking point of a piece of equipment, go throw it in a bait box that's 160 degrees and then go put it out in the winter where it's, 0 degrees.
Right. Or fluctuating 70 to 90 degrees in a single day, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll find the breaking point. you'll find the breaking point of stuff real fast. And so I just kept working with different companies that were, I've gotten to see stuff that never made it to production, right? I've gotten to test articles that just, they never saw the light of day because they were too expensive. It didn't make sense for that company. They sold that technology to another company. And that's really, at the end of the day, one of the more interesting things about this industry is like, we're trying to make it easier for the technicians,
Right.
but the technicians' companies are not ready to adapt. And it's been one of the hardest challenges, is just getting people to understand the value. For some companies, it clicks so fast once they have it in their hands and they can see the value of it. Like, we have a company in Texas that literally has like almost 1,000 devices deployed on a regular basis in a residential setting for rodent control.
Wow. See, and this is something I talked about on a previous podcast with Adam Holt, where, that was like, everything has kind of been pointed towards the commercial division, and I said that at the time, was like, this technology would actually be powerful in a residential division, using the Skyhawk where you're using the cell phone data, right? Because that way, if I'm a rodent technician and I've got 30 congruent rodent programs all being ran at the same time, I can wake up in the morning and see exactly where my problem accounts are, which ones are having activity, and that way you're not wasting gas and time just driving all over every house that you placed a trap at 3 days ago to check to see if that trap, that is a lot to bring a whole human being somewhere that a simple text message data is worth, can instantaneously send that. Yeah. I love that concept. I love that you guys have found some people who are willing to work on the residential side with it.
Yeah, and so I would say I met the Skyhawk folks at the Vegas. I met them at the Vegas Pest World. We were lucky enough to have a Pest World in our home city, and we got free days to go attend, right?
Oh, cool.
Which is really awesome, because I thought I knew a lot about what was going on, and I learned that I had very little knowledge, and I could learn a lot more. And that's where I met these guys, the Skyhawk team, and this was the product right here. There was 2 products at the time. This was the Kiwi. We still sell the Kiwi. It's a killer product. It's a standalone device. It was primarily targeted at the wildlife industry. I know there's a lot of people that do wildlife out there, and this is like a person multiplier for the wildlife industry. In almost every state, you're required to check your traps every day.
Right,
in a lot of those states, you can get away from that if you electronically monitor it. That's exactly what this does, and it has its own cellular service. It's a very reasonable cost in terms of purchasing it, and it's a very reasonable cost in having a monthly subscription on it. $7.99 to $9.99 a month for these guys. For our wildlife guys, they save more than that in fuel on a single trip for some of these guys.
Definitely.
So that's how I met these guys, was this little product. But there were rumors that, hey, we're going to make something smaller and a little more tailored to the commercial and the residential guys. And so I kept talking to them. I got to test some stuff. I worked with the InView team over there. Sorry, something fell. And I worked with the InView team as well, and they were doing stuff. We were a big pest pack provider user, and so I got to work with the InView team. I got to work with the Woodstream team. So I just kept learning more about the industry and more about electronic rodent monitoring and what could the system do. Like, sometimes I would see stuff and I'd be like, I would have never thought that you could use devices to check how many times visitation, how many times are they visiting. There's
Right.
products to tell you exactly when devices
Especially
have
for
gone
stuff
off.
like Liquitox or ContraPest, are they,
Yeah.
or even these base stations, how much of it is actually, are these multiple different rodents, multiple different feedings? Is this one alpha just getting in there and consuming everything all at one time? Because that's going to let not only where your hotspots are, but it's also going to let what's an ample amount of bait or an ample amount of product in that situation. So.
Well, and we say that, but it's like trending data too, right?
Yep.
A lot of people, when they think of training data, they're like just like captures, right? Because that's what
Right.
we've been trained to learn
Yep.
is, hey, let's look at the training data for captures. And then maybe people get like a little more advanced and they're like, well, how much bait consumption are we having in these boxes? And that was kind of like, I was doing a lot of major commercials and I was like, how do I figure this out? Like, how do I figure out which stations are my most vulnerable stations? Which stations are the ones that like, yeah, I get consistent visitation on this one box, but it's not a lot of bait. But then over here on this corner of the building, like that box is cleaned out every time I visit. And I just keep adding more rodenticide to it because I keep getting, but like, how many times is this box getting visited? Right.
Right.
And that's where it just came to the point where I was like, okay, either I'm going to have to build something or, or something's going to break. And what ended up happening is I left to go work at another company with kind of this in interest in mind, of pushing them forward in remote monitoring out of a local Vegas branch. And like about 9 months in, Mitch, my boss, he was previously with Enview and Bayer in their system, and I had known him from doing some installs with them at PepsiCo. Reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm at this new company. I think you're the right fit to help customers, you know, get systems off the ground and how to
Right. How to
just make it
integrate,
work."
adopt this technology. Right. Right.
And I was kind of playing with Mitch's previous technology at InView and going like, "Hey, I think I can do a few more things with it. Like, can you send me a couple of these special nuts that are on here?" And then I would like pull sensors off of one thing and go put them in another thing. And he's like, "I just was always impressed with how you like weren't afraid to like live in the boundaries, like go outside of them a little bit to learn a little bit more of what they're capable of." And that's kind of one of the things I feel like I've really brought here is that I have a vision of IPM that's maybe different than a lot of other people's vision of IPM. You know, we're used to the like, let's try not to use as much stuff that affects the environment. Let's limit our rodenticide. Well, what if we took it one more step and like we get captures, but let's figure out why we get captures or where exactly those rodents are coming from. Like, let's
Right.
build a couple more steps in the process to just make a better overall, you know.
Yeah, like predictive proactiveness, right, as opposed to constantly
Yeah.
reactive to what like you said, what happens after the fact. You come there, you open up a big station, you see what's been consumed, not necessarily like where they're coming from, which side, or
And
how many,
maybe
that kind of thing.
maybe I'm lucky and we sell that account for weekly service, right?
Right.
If I'm lucky, I might know. Maybe it's monthly service, right? Then it's like, well, I don't really know anything other than they visit here. But
Right.
one
Month
of the
is a
great
long
things
time
that
in the
I've
pest control world.
yeah, and that's one of those things is one of the great things that having some of this technology brought was like, hey, so like I've noticed this trend that like at 2:00 in the morning every single day, this single box gets hit on a repeated basis. Well, you can do a lot of information with that, right?
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
you might have neophobic rodents that won't go near a snap trap, but they might be more enticed by certain baits at those times, right?
Right.
You can use that information to influence your plan of attack. And you'd be amazed how often that data becomes even more valuable in terms of, catching that last rat or catching that rodent that is just so elusive, or just even figuring out in a building. Like, there's a lot of times that you're in a building, you're like, I have no idea where this rat, I thought I've sealed every single hole, And so you're like, okay, let me put out 7 or 8 devices and just check where in the building it's running by. And then you go like, okay, well, it's only going off on this right-hand corner of the building. Okay, well, let's move all of those devices to that area and then see, oh, is it on a pipe? Is it on, like, you can nail it down while you're not there.
So I was having a conversation with Miss Kimberly Camera recently. She runs the Canine rodent abatement programs, right? And one of the things that she was talking about was, they are on site when they do these things from 10 a.m. in the morning to 2 p.m. at night, or 2 a.m. at night, right? They are on site for the whole entire day, and that goes through second shift and into third shift, because these rodents, their behavior, it changes throughout the day, and you're not really going to get a full understanding. But the thing is like your average technician doesn't have that kind of time to spend on site. We're lucky if we get 15 minutes, maybe an hour for some of our bigger accounts, or 2 hours, but realistically, you're getting just a handful of minutes to actually be out here and assess the issue. And so, having that ability with the electronic rodent monitoring to get some insight on the behavior at that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. hour is critically important. And one of the things that when you came down for the Warhammer 40K event, you brought some of your stuff, you were talking a little bit about it, had me totally intrigued, was the fact that you guys 3D print like the ability to put these sensors on like anything, right? And is that a making of your own? Are you the tinkerer who came up with this, or who came up with this great idea of being able to take this great technology and combine it with the other technology of 3D printing and retrofit it to anything you want, right? You were saying even like Victor snap traps can have this equipment placed on it. So who's responsible for this, and who do I gotta thank?
So our parent company is a computer manufacturing company, so they're very familiar with technology. A lot of 3D printing happens, and 3D printing has its place, right? If I want to test something and I don't want to make 500 of it, I can 3D print 3 or 4, make sure it works, dial it in, and then I can send it off to get molded, right? But I don't have the investment of saying, hey, it's only going to be economical if I buy 500 of these,
right?
And then only to find out it doesn't work, right? And so that's one of the great things about it. And one of the things I love doing in the job is just like getting the newest bleeding edge of product, and just being able to figure it out like right then and there how to make it work. One of the newer products that's come out recently is the product from VM. It's their new Viper trap. I got one like right when they came out, and within 4 days I figured out how to make it monitorable. And I failed 2 or 3 times, but like that's part of the fun for me, is like, hey, how do I make it work? Like the very first time I set it up, I literally launched one of our devices like 6 feet across the room when I set it off, and I was like, well, that didn't work. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to think about this a different way.
But this ability to repeat and reiterate, though, at a low cost, And, are you able to use any AI tools to help out with this process, or is it all hand, like, are you good at CAD, like computer CAD or whatever, like CAD programming, or how do you do
I won't say I'm really good, but I'm proficient at CAD. So growing up in an industrial maintenance company, one of the things I actually did a lot of was design, right? So like, if somebody wants you to put something on the side of a wall and they just say put it on the side of the wall and here's how it mounts, well, you got to figure that out. Well, like I started by just like cutting metal apart and doing stuff like that, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe there's like a better way for this. And then sometimes you want it to only be like a single solid part, so it needs to be machined. And sure, I could go pay somebody to do it, or I could iterate on it a couple of times, figure it out. And so I've learned a little bit more. Like I've sent some of my own designs into Skyhawk for just iteration to help the system move along. It sounds absolutely silly, but we have a passive infrared device, and previously it was only mounted on the outside of a tin cat, and we had a request to be able to put it on the top. So we drill a hole through the top of the unit, and I was like, man, it's really hard to like just get this to work on a consistent basis. And I was like, how can I make it a little bit easier? So I actually designed a guide to actually go in. There's a tiny hole in the sensor. And so I designed a guide that would minimally go into this hole, but not interfere with the actual passive infrared eye that's in there. So, And, it took me a couple iterations. I made it a little too long one time. I made it a little too short another time. And it was just like, but I could go throw it on my 3D printer and literally in, I don't know, probably 3 hours come up with an adapter that works.
That's
and
incredible.
now I can 3D print as many of them as I want whenever I need them. Oh, I got an install. Okay, go turn on the 3D printer, walk away. One of the things about it for me is IPM, right? And the quest has always been to make things a little bit smaller, have more purposes. So like this is our standard vibration magnet sensor. In the last year, we announced this at Pest World. This is the Mini. It's a read sensor, really. We call it a read sensor because it has a lot of purposes, right? Like I can mount this on a trap and it can tell me if it goes off. I can put it on a door and it can tell me when the door opened, when the door closed. You can learn a lot about a facility sometimes more from the door habits than from the actual rodent devices.
You bet.
Because if I'm already monitoring the traps and then I have a door open and then I have a door and then I have a capture, it's a lot more likely that if I have really good IPM practices of keeping the building really tight, that it probably came from that door.
Yeah, well, it's one of the core tenets is cultural control, and a lot of people look past that so much, and it's all about what rodent devices or what products you're using. But monitoring that human behavior, and how often are they emptying the trash can? What food devices are they putting in the in these trash cans? Are they there's so much to it, whether it be that person that likes to go out and have a cigarette break on that, and prop that door open at 2:30 in the morning, or they turn on that really bright light that just draws in all the bugs from super far away. These are all things that can contribute over time to your headache, to your trending levels, and to your hotspots. And it has nothing to do with the integrity of the door sweep. It has nothing to do with whether or not you've got enough product out, and everything to do with can you communicate to the staff to get those behaviors under control, so that way the problem goes away.
And so that's one of the things like I got to do when I came on board was like, hey, let me open the coffers of all the things we've ever built, or what do we want to build, right?
Yeah.
And I get to say like, hey, what if this? Hey, what if that? Like, can I borrow this and bring it to my division to just next level that division, right?
Right.
And to be honest, like the other division works in boats. You know what works great in a boat? Rodent traps, because guess what wants on your boat?
Yeah, the rats. Yeah.
So,
a little two-in-one action.
We work amongst each other, but that's one of the more interesting things is it's a symbiotic relationship we have with each other. And one of the awesome things I've gotten to do while I'm here is like have my connections that I've made in this industry help make influential changes here, right? So like I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you we're making a major announcement at Pest World about a new device. And I think it will probably be one of the biggest changes we've had in like global IPM for remote monitoring. Because it's going to be in the insect area. So we're gonna monitor insects now.
Oh, all right. Now, okay, you're giving the teaser of a lifetime, and I don't know how much I can prod on this, so I can, But okay, so Pest World. This is, pay attention, guys. If you're attending, walk by their booth because it's about to come. Oh, look, yeah. AJ saying, just take all my money.
Yeah. So like I can't go too much further.
We'll leave it at that.
I have a limited comment that I can make about it. But let's just say like our goal is to further the market in ways that some of our competition probably don't care about furthering the market, right? They're primarily based in rodent devices, and that's their bread and butter.
Yep.
I don't sell rodent devices. I adapt rodent devices, and I don't care what rodent device you have. I have an adapter for all of them.
That's awesome.
And if I don't, just let me know. I'll figure it out. There's a correlation. I've had conversations with other people in that very specific area. Let's see where it can go.
Well, thank you. Thank you for exploring that area because, most of what we do, sure, there's a lot of rodent control out there, but most of what we do is deal with bugs. And if you're if
Yep.
you're pushing the envelope in that direction, you're doing something nobody else is doing. We gotta applaud innovation. We gotta applaud people who are taking risks and trying new things. So definitely major shout out to Skyhawk for doing that, for Trapmate for putting that together because that I am now super excited to find out what this thing is about.
Let's just say innovation is one of the core features at Skyhawk, and we're gonna keep pushing the edge of what's capable in our industry because we need it, right? Like at the end of the day,
How long
the
has that
faster
Victor trap been around?
the faster, here's the deal. The faster you know something, the faster you can react to it, the faster the problem goes away. Because I can tell you, I've been on a lot of sites and they're brand new customers, and you're like, well, hey, how long has this problem existed that you didn't happen to mention when I bid your property?
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yep.
And they're like, oh, it's been going on for 8 months.
Yep. Yeah, when you actually get there on site and you're pounding the pavement with the feet, that's when you start finding all the skeletons in the closet. That's when you find out what the true story is, why they lost that last vendor, why they lost that last pest control guy.
Well, I think one of my favorite things was literally I had a customer inform me that, not my customers, but another customer's customers, inform me that like, oh, they hadn't had service in 8 months and they have a rodent problem. And I go, well, it's going to take 8 months probably to get rid of your problem. They did it a lot faster than that. But, sometimes there's persistent stuff. Like if you have a problem, my kind of rule of thumb is like half to full amount of time that you've had a problem is how long it's probably going to take it to fully go away.
Yeah.
Whether it's German roaches, whether it's bed bugs, whether it's like there's a lot of silver bullets out there that we like to throw around.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how that one bed bug shows up 7.5 months later after you've done a SteriFab or a crossfire treatment, right?
And what you're saying about this, length of time that you've had an issue, it's like there are a handful of very specialized operators that can come in and really shorten that timeline down, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to be very invasive. It is not, your standard everyday, technician out on the road. So I 100% agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. If you've been festering on a problem, it's going to fester on a solution for a bit.
And so like that's kind of where like one of my past reputations was birds, right? So like I like all the bird products. I'm not afraid to use all the bird products to make a problem go away.
What's one wives' tale that sprinkle around a little bit of garlic or what's one wives' tale for birds that is just does not work?
CDs.
Oh, okay,
you ever seen that? People hang the CDs. That does not. I mean, they might work for a couple days.
Yeah.
Or like the owl. The owl's got to be the most hilarious one because you'll literally have like pigeon poop sitting on top of the owl because they like don't even care anymore. They're landing on that.
Ooh. Well, okay. So,
the unique part is a lot of that kind of stuff is really knowledge, right? So like people use owls in Vegas and they don't work, and they go, well, what doesn't work? And I go, you put a barn owl out, and we don't have barn owls in our territory, so they don't even know they're supposed to be scared of it. They're scared of it for the first couple of days, and then it doesn't move, and they don't. Okay, whatever. I'll get 5 feet away from it, still didn't move. I'll get 2 feet away from it, didn't move. Oh, it doesn't move at all. I'll just land on it next time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, but if you put something that looked like a hawk out there, that's one of our native hawk species, they won't go anywhere near it because they know hawks kill pigeons. So. I think that's one of the biggest wise tales is.
What's one trusted go-to? Is it the hawks? Is it swapping the owls for the hawks? Or what's your one go-to for quick, easy? I don't know how to say quick and easy. I don't want to sound like a silver bullet kind of thing, but a go-to product method, something like that works for birds because, like I said, most people don't do work with birds.
Exclusion, use the same skills you have for rodents and just make them bigger.
Okay.
It's amazing how some, half-inch to quarter-inch wire mesh will keep a pigeon or a sparrow out of some alcoves you don't want them in.
Great
Um,
advice.
I'm not gonna say like those birds aren't gonna they're not gonna just immediately disappear. Like I have always had a thing about setting expectations with customers and birds. Um, so a good example is solar panels. Like in my territory, solar panels are prolific.
Yeah,
Um,
everywhere.
right? Like there's a lot of sun that hits the desert, so we have a lot of solar panels. And we had some solar panel companies that just didn't do exclusion. They like wouldn't even offer it to their customers. And then like 6 months in, they've got 25 birds underneath their nesting underneath their solar panels. I got to come in and remove the nesting material and then exclude them from getting under there, right? And then people would be upset because like the birds would hang around for a month just on their roof, or they're constantly pushing into areas that maybe they can hang out in. So like I was very deliberate when I did installations of bird work where we did solar panel exclusion. I was like, hey, you have this alcove. You need that to do the alcove at the same time, or the bird just moved to the alcove.
Are the bird
Um,
spikes worth a damn? Is the gel worth anything?
everything has its place. Like I will never say that the gel doesn't work. I don't think it's a super viable product in Vegas. We're in the desert. It's
So
very
hot.
dusty. Like
Oh, dusty. Yeah,
it's not the hot, it's the dust,
that makes
right?
sense.
Like it
Yeah.
works pretty well, but you have to set the expectation that like, hey, every couple of years we have to change these, or
Yeah.
every year. It's just an expectation setting, right? Like everything in pest control, if you set the right expectations, the customers will be a lot more understanding.
Yeah.
And so like to go back to the birds, like when we do an exclusion on a house's solar panels, I'd be like, hey, you have 5 other alcoves that need exclusion. It's going to cost you like another $1,000. And they're like, but I don't want to do that. I was like, then I won't do your solar panel job, because I don't want you to call me in 3 months and saying, well, they just moved to the alcoves.
Right. Right.
And
Just moved
then
over 5 feet.
then my favorite part was when I would do that at the very beginning of my career, and they would call and I would have warned them and I still did the exclusion. They'd call me, and it was $1,000 during October when it was temperate and nice, and now it's June and they're outside playing with their kids and they see the birds in the alcoves, and I come back to them. I was like, it's $1,500 right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's
And they
hot.
go, why is it more? I was like, well, first off, I offered to do it when I was on the roof earlier, which doesn't cost me more money to move people in and out, come do a quote, XYZ. And then it's also now 105 degrees
Yeah, it's gonna
during
take
the
me
peak of the
longer.
heat.
I'm gonna have to take more heat
And I
breaks.
can't
all
have
of
guys
that.
on the roof all day.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I think as silly as it sounds, the thing that we're not talking about as an industry, that has to be breached extremely carefully. It was brought up at Pest World last year, like in a couple of times, but the new OSHA guidelines for heat are
Yes.
very restrictive. If you work in a market where it exceeds 90 degrees on a regular basis, you better know the OSHA guidelines and you better execute them properly.
Yep.
Nobody I know wants an OSHA fine.
Yep.
I don't want an OSHA fine, that's for sure.
You don't want you guys falling out. I had to make a post the other day, a heat advisory post, being like, hey, if you get a technician that reports there being an outage for their air conditioning on their vehicle, treat that like a life or death situation. You got guys out here working 8, 10, 12 hours a day, full bore in the sun, bust and hump. They've had to drink 6, 8, 10 water bottles just to try and stay hydrated. They're sweating so much. And, not only are we getting ambient temperatures today, my dashboard read 105 all day long. And that's not the heat coming off of the road. That's not the heat coming off that highway. We get a ton of traffic in our market. I'm sure like every other major metropolitan area, you're talking 30, 45-minute, hour-long commutes from from wherever your last stop is. And at 5 o'clock in the day, when it's the high heat of the day, you're asking to give someone a heat stroke. And then, or you're talking about being on these roofs, it's 115 degrees, with the heat index and stuff, and then the heat radiating off of that asphalt.
It's like 160 degrees on the roof.
Exactly. Yeah, those asphalt tiles are just blistering.
We have a lot of concrete tiles and a lot of solar panels, and people don't realize the solar panels reject a lot of light back at you too.
Yes. Yes.
So you're getting like a suntan ray pointed at you. So a very common reminder to my team when I used to have a team out here was make sure you have enough water. Make sure you have enough sunscreen. Make sure that you're taking breaks.
Yep.
I
try and tell people to service the outside first after you've done your car ride, cool break, and then do the inside. That way you can take advantage of that air conditioning to cool down. As opposed to the other way around, because again you really have to time that heat exposure. And limit it to where you're able to catch a little bit of air every once in a while.
Well, and that's like I said, like if you haven't looked at the OSHA guidelines, I pray that most owners have had that advisory to go take a look at those. It's been in a lot of NPMA articles. Go look at them. They're challenge. They're a challenge. I will be open and honest. They're a challenge. You may have to adjust your rate cards.
Yep.
To fall in line with this. I think, to be honest, the pest control industry's rate cards are too low to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a general statement.
Mm-hmm.
Like our family pest control business is probably in the top 10% of our market for expense. And we get a lot of, well, that's really expensive. I was like, well, you get quality work for what you pay for.
Yep.
And you can go have, the guy who, on the weekends sprays a couple of houses for $40, do your house. That's up to you. Like I'm not going to tell you, as long as that guy has a license and is doing it properly, let him do his thing. But if you want a dedicated service professional who is willing to put in the time in the classroom, in the field, constantly looking for innovation and keeping your house safer, then you're going to pay more for those people.
So shout out to the people in the industry. Stop racing down to the bottom. It's not a race
absolutely.
to the bottom. Treat it like a trade career. It's not a 9-to-5 just here to collect a paycheck. This is a real deal industry, and you should take pride in the work that you do. Be serious about it, and like you said, don't be afraid to charge the rates that you're worth.
And know that the big boys raced us to the bottom, and they figured out they made a mistake too.
Yep.
A lot of these big providers are issuing, like, for residential, like some $10 a month price increases.
Yep.
Like, not a dollar. They're making major price increases.
They took on a lot of businesses that were profitable, that had no debt, and they were buying them, and now they've got this huge debt to service, and all this market consolidation that's happened has made them very bloated and top heavy, and the market's going to have to respond in some kind of way, like you said. So be aware that that's happening out there, that racing to the bottom is not going to help.
I was blown away when Andrew posted that graph the other day. The
market share changing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like I grew up in a mid-market company. Like my dad's company was like mid-market. We were never like the top of the line industry. We were never near the bottom. Like I refused to go do work for free.
Right. It's right there, middle rung.
We were always a middle market company. That industry is totally different too now. Like those companies don't exist.
Yeah.
because there's been so much in it. And people talk like, oh, it's the pest control industry is this way. I was like, no, it's every industry that's in service industry is consolidating at a breakneck pace and a breakneck market share.
Yeah.
I mean, like I would encourage anyone that's spent time in the industry and has the passion for it, like if you ever get the opportunity to have your own business, it's hard. It will be one of the hardest experiences of your whole life.
Yeah.
But if you think you can do it, and like, I mean, be really committed, like build yourself a safety net, like, but be really committed to it, and you'll be amazed at what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Like, our family business didn't start probably because the way that they wanted to start, but it's doing well. I told you before, like a lot of the bird expertise that I've brought produces a lot of value for that company.
Yes.
And it's like I've handed that expertise out to other people, and I thank everybody else who's handed it to me. Raleigh used to work for Copasan. He taught me so much information about birds that I would have never learned if it wasn't for his classes. And I've gotten to pass that knowledge on to some of the people at Truly Nolan. I got to pass that on to our family business. I passed it on to the people at my previous employer, Pitbull Pest Control. And it's the more people that know it, the better, right?
Yep.
But you can do crazy numbers for your business if you're willing to touch the bird work.
Yeah.
But you got to pay the insurance. You got to do it the right way. Like, it's expensive. You got to buy harnesses. You got to buy the equipment that keeps your guys safe.
Yep.
But it's also very profitable. Like I would be safe in saying 40% of this year's business will be from birds.
Ooh. Hey, and if you're one of the few people providing it, you know.
At a conservative number, I will say 40%. It could easily break 50%.
That's incredible.
Because the more time you spend doing it, the more reputation you get. Like you'll find out. Like we have guys in a Facebook group in Vegas because one of the companies that did solar went under, and they did okay to nothing for birds. And guess what? There's birds under people's stuff. They don't exist anymore. They don't have somebody to go talk to about this. And we just sit there and we just answer questions, right? Don't be afraid to answer questions about what needs to happen. Go out there, provide the quotes. And now we're like the only company, that group is the only company that's doing work for all these people that lost their provider.
That's how you find a specialty. That's definitely how you find a niche. I absolutely love the merging of technologies and even just kind of step away a little bit from the actual devices and stuff that you're doing. Technology in 2025 in pest control seems to be this foot sprint race. All the major software companies are trying to integrate, various different AI softwares and APIs and all these terms. It feels like was exclusive to the computer community just a couple years ago, and now you got pest control guys, saying it. And so, just on a personal take, what do you think? Like, being a person who loves that bleeding edge, where is the bleeding edge right now? Where are people trying to race to, and what do you think is going to be the like where are we going? Like, I definitely know we're racing towards something, but what do you think is going to be? Because I don't know if it's out. Like, I don't know if it's really gonna if the robotic CSR is like the end goal. I know that people think that that's kind of like where they're going right now, but where do you think? What's going on in your mind?
I think there's always a time and place for people, right? Like, am I upset when I get a phone call and I got to press a couple numbers to get to a human? No. Am I upset when I only talk to a human? A lot more likely. So I still think there is a time and a place, but maybe to route those calls, that's better. Mm-hmm. There are some that are getting better. Like, I got on the phone with one the other day, and I didn't realize it was an AI until it was like, let me transfer you to so and so.
Right.
And they're like, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. So like, I think there are some where it's coming, right?
Yeah.
I'm very much like I very much always am looking at technology. You know, several years ago there was some presidential campaigns that talked about like, hey, as AI gets integrated, where does that leave people?
Right.
And for me, like I grew up in a trade household, and I've always said like, if you're in the trades, you'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
If you're in a blue collar job, you most likely will be okay. But if you're in a white collar job, beware.
Right.
It's very like they'll start there.
I see a lot of tools coming out immediately for the back end of business operations. These things that help to funnel reviews or handle routing,
BI
and stuff like
managers.
Right. But do you and of course it makes sense that they're going to target the business owners first, right? Because that's but eventually some of this stuff is going to trickle down. Where do you think AI, or even not even AI, it could just be any of these future technologies that are kind of trickling out, what do you think is going to be some of the best forward advancements for the everyday technician? I know Skyhawk and the cell phone data is a huge thing for that, right? These Internet of Things, but where are you guys going to the next level, or maybe not Skyhawk specifically, but just what I mean, where is that next level of technology trickling down to the everyday tech?
I think some of it is like merely like consolidating data that just takes time to do, right? Like I do a lot of data analytics in my job to just make sure the system's working properly. Inform customers that, hey, this is a trend I'm seeing on these certain sites, but I do a ton of data analytics. I don't have time to cut and paste CSV files from one place to another and to make sure that they lined up exactly the same every single time I run these reports. I can ask one of these AIs to do the heavy lifting, and it does it in minutes, something that would take me hours, right?
See, that's definitely something I was thinking, like reporting. The especially these audited accounts. Because like you said, like I'm wearing gloves, I'm out here with tools, and I'm not sitting at no computer to be able to move CV files and all this stuff. I mean, that's just not in my wheelhouse, But like you said, there's data-heavy metrics that are being used and analyzed constantly, and especially in these big box brands and food manufacturing audits and audit accounts and such.
And I think some of it too is just we don't know what we don't know, and they can recognize trends and patterns too, right? Like maybe I see so many events, but I'm not having time to go through the granular data. If I ask it like, hey, is there reoccurring patterns? It can tell me. And so that's one of the helpful things too. Like, and I think another thing too is like, if you can upload a file to an AI program and you can say like, hey, I want to generate a report about this one thing that's specific, but you don't know how to do it, right? It's probably going to be able to figure it out. Maybe it'll take a couple iterations for you, but you'd be surprised. It's still faster than you not knowing how to do it, and it'll figure it out. You'll get to the report you want. And I think some of it for us nowadays is just finding that rhythm of how to integrate it and then where it doesn't have a place, right? Like I'm very pure with some of my stuff where I'm like, hey, I want the unadulterated data over here.
Right. Well,
and then I want the stuff that is curated for me based on my requests.
I also think of there's an app called Circuit that's technically a package delivery app, but this is a tip and trick for any technician out there that would like to try and gain some efficiency in their day. It's an app where you can go through and you can add in the stops that you're going through for the day.
It's a route optimizer.
It's a route optimizer, but it includes like historical traffic data, like predictive traffic data. It pulls, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze. It's pulling all of these different sources, and it's giving you real-time traffic optimization. So, a lot of times, it may say to take, go to this main highway, but it realizes, no, that's going to happen at 5 o'clock today. based on all this calculated, how many stops you're going to. So, at 5 o'clock, you're really going to want to take this side route. And I have to pay for that separately, and I have to go through and input my stuff. And I don't know, I know some technicians may not have the liberty or the freedom to do that in their route. They have to go one at a time or whatever, time-based.
There are some companies that have moved that direction. And really, at the end of the day, a lot of that too is it's still data intensive on the back end for the companies, right?
Yeah.
I think soon it won't be that way. I think that they'll be like, hey, just paste all of these in and put your specific requirements, right? Like, this customer only wants service on Tuesdays.
Right.
Like,
right. And
how
to
do
be
we
able to just
provide them the
dictate
best
that
service at our convenience, but on a Tuesday?
Right.
Where 7 of their neighbors within 3 miles want service any day. How do I build a calendar around that, right? And I think that's really what's coming. Like, it's here a little bit,
right?
But it's a very expensive paid service. But it's also saving a lot of these companies thousands of dollars a year in fuel and manpower.
Yes. Crisscrossing technicians, moving past each other, and all this kind of silliness,
Well, but that's also an interesting thought, though, right? So, like, maybe you do have a customer that has a very specific technician requirement. Well, okay, we know that they only want to see this person, but the best day is actually way over here, but we don't think about it because they're always the beginning of the month person, right? So it'll find those little holes that we don't think about looking at. In my previous company, I was regional operations manager in 3 different states, and boy, was that an epic challenge, right? Like, you think managing one major metropolitan's real fun, start going to 3 states.
Oh, no.
And being a manager and then having people have preferences for you to do service.
Oh,
and you're like,
that's
I
not
love
happening.
that. I don't have time anymore. I would like you to introduce you to Eric over here. He is just as capable of me as me. And interestingly enough, like, there are customers that will cancel service over stuff like that.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. I want to help as many customers as I can, but sometimes we can't just work with certain customers. Yeah. Like, I have this saying that nobody likes that I say. There are such thing as bad customers.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And you should fire your bad customusers.
Yeah, exactly. No,
like, that's
I
100%
agree with
that's
that.
not this company's knowledge, but that's how I've always felt about. Like, I owned a previous other service company in aquarium cleaning, and I fired customers because they would call my office 30 times a month.
Fire and one bad, replace it with 2 good. Like.
Yeah, but you have to kind of look sometimes. Like, I feel I'm very, like, onus to the owner operators out there, in that, like, you don't have time to answer Sally's 17 questions a month.
Right.
If she's taking up 4 hours of your month with phone calls and service, and you're only making $17 on her service, you're basically paying her to be the client.
I was going to say, there's a difference between offering good customer service and doing a thorough job, and then dealing with some time vampires, like you say, who are not going to be respectful of your time, and they're going to drive down production value to the point of non-profitability, and you just can't do that, right? So that's really cool, man. So, have you gotten a chance to service any unique sites over time, or work? I maybe I don't want to give away any, like, proprietary stuff, but what are some of the more like, interesting job sites you've been able to do, especially with, like, Skyhawk?
So I'll just say one of the things throughout my career, like, I've been very passionate about, is food storage and distribution. I grew up in a lot of places where food was made. I worked in a lot of production facilities. I previously mentioned Pepsi. One of the very large production facilities in America is in Las Vegas. I mean, it's not nearly as big as some of them, but it's a really interesting place. They do all their distribution and manufacturing on the same site. It's its own unique challenges.
I don't know if you were one of those kids that watched like How It's Made. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. So I
Oh yeah.
love when I get to go to my industrial sites and you see all the machines connected. It's like a big, giant, complex Rube Goldberg machine type thing. It's like I'm such a sucker for that.
So there's an insane new thing that they had built in the PepsiCo plant was this like brand new, very fancy German canning machine, and I just like I could stand there and watch that thing, can cans for hours. if I let myself,
and,
right?
Like, they got the flashing lights because it's just whirling around.
They literally have. It goes so fast for the cameras to count the cans. They have to have
like
the flashing lights.
Yeah.
A strobe light.
I think I've seen this exact machine. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. It's something else. I mean, it's got ladders or staircases. Or this is like a 2-story kind of machine, and it's yeah. That thing is just ripping and roaring.
I mean, getting to watch like I'll get to say like I've been in a lot of food production facilities throughout my life, primarily since that's what my dad did. But it's something completely different to now being in the pest industry where I get to see like every end of it, right? So like at Skyhawk, we support growers, right? Like we support the crops at the crop. Then I support after it gets picked to the warehousing of raw goods. Right. And then we support the processing sites. Then we support
the retail stores that it gets sent to. It's like
all the way down to the retail. Like it's like it's so interesting to see. Like I get to see the process throughout the whole process, and I don't think a lot of people in America understand that. Like that there is a huge process to how you get. Just a good example is like. I think we take huge advantage that we have corn on the shelves in the grocery store like all year long, pretty much nowadays, which a lot of it is imported, but still like the fact that so much of it gets manufactured in the US and, whether it gets dried and it gets turned into an end product, plastics, ethanols, whether it gets sent out to food production, whether it goes to the feed sites, like there's so many different avenues that a single crop that gets pulled over here can go.
Right. And so many of them, you service all of them, you're there for each challenge.
We get to visit kind of all of those. And then like, I was talking with you when I was in Houston at the event, like data centers are huge now, right?
Oh yeah.
One of the big things about data centers is how do we not put people in them? Like for your safety, for the safety of the data, how do we have fewer people in them? Well, this is a great way to have fewer people in them. Right. I can check your traps every day. You'll get an alert letting you know that track's been checked. It's getting checked always, but you'll get a check-in from the device every day saying, hey, it's checked in, and there's no rodents in it.
Well,
and there's verification.
Plug one of my friends, Bo Birdwell, has a company called Farmed Fork Pest Control, and they literally work exactly in this kind of vertical chain like you're talking about. Do you guys do you know if you do any work with them?
I'm uncertain. Like, interestingly enough, like we do work with so many pest control companies. People say names, and I'm like, there's so many, I don't know. Like,
they're such an ideal candidate for
part of
for
my
the work
job,
you do.
though. I guess one of the coolest parts of my job doing customer service is like I get to help the one-man ops like learn, grow, build their business, be a force multiplier for these one-man ops so that they can do 2-3 people's worth of work using our product.
Right.
And then I get to get a phone call from their new guy going, hey, can you do training for me so that I can get on my feet so he can get out in the field and keep selling? Right. That's one of the awesome things I get to do is like we get to grow companies, be a force multiplier, train the new people, and just keep multiplying the industry. And then I get to deal with like the big monsters, as I like to call them, right? Like some of the biggest customers in the world and in America.
Right.
We're here to help them too. And you'll get the thing. Like I love to say that my boss loves white glove service.
Yep.
And I'm a white glove service specialist. And so you will get the exact same feel of customer service they get if you're a one-man op. Because I'm not going to change the way that I'm helping you, whether you have 10,000 traps or you have one with us. So to me, that's one of the cool things I get to do is just watch these companies grow. And then like be here and I get an email going like, hey, we need 50 more sensors for this brand new project that we're doing. And I'll go like, well, how can I help you with that project? Is there something you need? Does anybody need training? Like, It's awesome to be able to just help a company grow.
Yeah,
right?
I love the accessibility to this and the scalability that you guys are able to offer, and I love that you get to have your hand in the story of helping people overcome these major challenges. Like you said, sometimes when they're deploying at some of these very, very large facilities, like you said, this could be a public health outbreak issue. This could be a contamination issue. This could be a food recall issue. I mean, there's so much that could go wrong, and the pressure's on, and the managers are beaming down on you, and you got your technicians are sweating, and to be that tool in the tool bag, that resource to be able to say, hey, we've got your back. We're going to walk you through it, from the beginning to the end. We're going to be that support team that you need. I think that's an incredible statement for you personally, and the work that you've done both in our community and just outside it with your own customers, but also with the products that you guys bring to the table. I absolutely love it, and thank you so much for just taking your time to come onto the podcast and share some of that stuff. We are buttressing up to about an hour, so I do want to get a couple little last takes from you. What just lightning round kind of stuff. What's your favorite product? What do you recommend every company get their hands on first if they want to check out some of the Skyhawk stuff? And who do you think should be a future guest on the show, someone I should try and reach out to and get on here?
Well, my favorite product right now is Skyhawk. I love it. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I would tell you, if you work in commercial and you deal with a lot of these being a lot of tin cats.
Oh gosh, so many of them.
I used to be the guy that had to check like 300 tin cats once a week in a facility, and that was like the only amount of time I really had to do anything with. Let's
Count
just
yourself
say
lucky, because I had one site that had 900 of them.
Yeah. So, but let's just say like this passive infrared sensor can check it 24/7, 365 for 3 to 5 years on a single set of batteries. Keyword being these are battery powered, and the hubs are battery powered with regular batteries that you can go to the store and buy off the shelf. Like, that's what I love about these.
Okay.
Is all my products are run on batteries. Even the hub that all the devices talk to, batteries. You don't gotta go ask a customer to plug it in or to plug into their internet or connect to their Wi-Fi. You got it all yourself right here in this little box.
What's the range of the hub to the individual units?
So we say 1,000 feet. There's always going to be challenges in certain
Concrete
facilities.
walls,
In
like
some
that.
areas, right. It's just going to depend. Like I had a facility, several months ago. They're in Tornado Alley. Those walls are thick.
Yeah.
The signal doesn't move through them the same. But we're here to support you in those. I went out there, did that install with them. We ended up putting like 20 hubs in a multi-million square foot facility. So it can cover a lot of area. But
ideally up to 1,000, but easily 100 feet, something like that, no problem.
I would say 1,000 is pretty solid. I mean, like for most of the times, it is going to be pretty solid at 1,000 feet.
Awesome.
And then sometimes I go and I put them on the 6th story of a building, and I've got devices a quarter of a mile away talking to my system. So
that would be very. I'm in flatland territory, so for me, I'll just go to my tallest tower and bing. We're treating it like radio. Awesome.
So you treat it like radio because it is radio. So
yeah,
we operate in the radio frequency, and it'll go. It'll get up and go. The higher you can get it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so then the last question: Who in the industry do you feel like is a mandatory must talk to? Next future guest, someone that's maybe been a mentor for you in the past, or someone that you really feel like has helped you out in your pest control journey.
Man, there's so many. Like that's an epic challenge for me to pick one.
I know, because all the rest of them are just gonna be totally, angered. Okay, then give me three then if you've got. No, I'm just not. No, just
you're
one,
making it even harder.
Just one.
Here's the deal. Okay, so probably nobody really knows who he is. He was my early mentor in pest control. His name's Ted Thorpe. He's an ace. He taught me pretty much everything I learned about bugs. The guy is scared as heck to get on a ladder, but he'll get up there and do it with you. He'll get on a boom lift that reaches 250 feet in the air. He hates it, but he'll do it with you if you're there for him. I have a deep love for Ted and his challenge of me. Finding a good mentor and having them challenge you. And then, as weird as it is to say, when your mentor can't challenge you anymore, go find a new mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. I love collecting mentors.
Ted to death. I love Ted to death, but there was a point that it came. I was like, well, I'm at the same level as Ted now, right? Yep. I started as a regular guy, and then I was a regional operations manager.
Right.
And he was a technical director. And so I needed different perspectives and stuff like that. And so one of the things that I'll push in going to find those mentors and other people is I love the National Pest Management Hives groups.
Yeah, shout out to the NPMA Hive groups.
So, yeah, I love the NPMA Hives. I've met some of, the most random people in our industry, from CSRs to, account executives to CEOs to owners. In these meetings, to people that do compliance, right? Yep. A lot of people don't think about how big of a deal in our industry compliance is. And I didn't understand it either until I was in a meeting with one of those people and they're talking about it. And I'm like, I just haven't been looking at that the same way you do.
Right.
And I learned a lot. And that's one of the cool things about programs like that the NPMA provide us. Yep. And don't be afraid to go spend the time on CEU classes, or non-CEU classes, right? You'll never learn something new if you're not there. I've learned about so many products and gotten to test products early because I was just willing to be there and listen and have conversations.
Yep. We've had a couple guys come on and present presentations that were not CEU, but they were top tier quality, some of the best information you can get in the industry from some of the.
I'm trying to get CEU certified classes.
That's right. Hey,
it's people don't understand how hard it is to get one state to certify your class, let alone a 50-state certification.
Yes. Well, definitely a major challenge. I know a couple of people who are in that same kind of pursuit. So if you need some help with, pointing in the right direction for some people who are good at that kind of thing, definitely let me know. But Christopher, thank you so much for coming in and joining us in the License to Kill show. Thank you for being a part of our community and all the work that you do. It has been absolutely great to get a chance to talk to you and hearing a little bit about your story. We hope to see you in the chats on a regular basis, man. Take it easy.
Thanks for tuning into the License to Kill podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful, informative, and engaging. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. It really helps us to reach more listeners like you. Have a question or a topic that you'd like us to cover in a future episode? Connect with us through our Facebook, YouTube, and most importantly, our Discord. Until next time, this is your host, Marcus, reminding you to stay sharp, stay legendary, stay connected.